If you want to be good in photo retouching, then you already know how important it is that you practice daily. So in this quick guide, I'm going to give you the fundamentals you need to get started with photo retouching inside of Photoshop. I believe that once you get the foundation or the fundamentals right, you can always translate those skills to other cases and be able to retouch just any photo that is given to you. And just a quick note before we begin, guys, thank you for subscribing. We recently crossed 350 subscribers, and this is thanks to the work that you guys do. You're amazing. You watch our videos, you like, some of you comment, and that is actually encouraging to us. In upcoming days, months, we will be experimenting with different types of contents on this channel, so we urge you to be kind with us. Comment down below to let us know what we are doing wrong or what we are doing right, so that we can adjust according to your needs. We are here because of you. So thank you for watching our videos, thank you for every like, and let's get started. Alright, so this is the image we'll be working on today, and the first thing I usually tell people is that once you have an image, it's not always a good idea to work on the original image. So that's why we have layers in Photoshop. You can always duplicate and have copies. So to duplicate, like this background here, you just press Ctrl+J to add a new layer via copy, just like layer 1 here. Now that we have this layer, we can hide the original background because we are going to use this for comparison purposes in the end. So let's just double click here to rename it. Since I want to heal the image, if at all there are some patches here and there, then I'll rename the layer appropriately. I'll just call it healing. Once that is done, now on the toolbar here, we have healing tools like the spot healing brush tool, the patch tool, and so on. There are other tools which are very useful, but as far as this image is concerned, I think the normal spot healing brush tool will do. Now, from this view, you might actually look the image to be very perfect, but once you start zooming into the image, you can actually see that there is a lot going on. There are imperfections here and there that we need to fix, okay? So at this stage, what you should normally do is spend some time clearing the bumps, the blemishes that are there, removing the pimples to kind of just fix things a little bit. It will just make the whole process easier as you proceed. So with the spot healing brush tool selected, and of course we know that once inside Photoshop, any tool you have selected will have different settings here on the options bar which you can customize. With the spot healing brush tool, we have the painting mode. Let's make sure we are set to the normal mode. The type is set to content aware. Since this layer has all the details that we want, I don't want to sample from all layers like the layer below it. I just want every detail to come from this healing layer. With all that in mind, now you can zoom in and start painting over those dark spots or those imperfections to get rid of them. So as far as this image is concerned, I think as you can see on her forehead, there are these tiny bumps there that might make up some of the textures, but at this stage, let's just clear them up. This process is actually going to take long, and because of that, I might actually need to fast forward the video because I don't want you to sit there watching me doing boring stuff like this. So see you when the whole process is over. Now let's just compare the two images. So that's the reason it was important for us to duplicate it. Now we can enable the background and toggle here to see the before and after to actually see the changes that we have made. So here are the changes. You can see very subtle, but it makes a lot of difference. The first step is done. Let's come again on the healing layer and add 2 copies of it. Press Ctrl+J twice Now we have healing copy 1 and 2. So let's rename this one now to color. And let's rename the one above to texture. Then let's put the 2 layers inside one group. And let's rename the group to frequency separation. Alright, now we can also disable this layer for a moment because we will only use that as reference. Now if anything ever happens to the frequency separation group, we can always come and continue here other than starting from square one again. That's the purpose of me duplicating these layers. Now let's expand the frequency separation group and let's understand what is going on here. This layer here is for color, okay? As you can see on the image, we have the true colors that make up her skin tone. So what we want to be left on this color layer is pure color and not the textures. We tried to clear the textures, but some of the textures are still there, which is still important. So what we are going to do now is to hide the texture layer above. And then with the color layer selected, let's add Gaussian blur filter to it. Now I will gradually increase the radius to a nice value until I'm able to blur away all the textures and allow just the colors. 18 is too much, so I'll take back down. .6 should do, so I'll just click OK. Now if you look closely on this layer, you can't see the texture. But if I enable the texture layer above here, you see that this layer has both the colors and the textures as well. So we are going to do the opposite on this other texture layer. We are going to clear away all the colors and retain just the textures. To do that, let us select the texture layer and then let's go to image and let's choose apply image. And because this image is 8-bit, you can see this tiny 8 here. It is 8-bit, okay? And if at all your image is 16-bit, you can check my other videos on frequency separation with a 16-bit image. But so long as your image is 8-bit, just input the following settings here. The source is simply the name of the document or the name of the photograph. Under layer, we know that the color layer is below the texture layer. So let's choose color from the layer option here. And then let's change the blending mode to subtract. Input a scale of 2, an offset of 128. These are just universal values. Set the opacity to 100%, respect these settings, and then click OK. Now if we hide the color layer for a moment, you can see that basically what is left on this layer is the textures. So let's now enable the color layer, then with the texture layer selected, click on the blending mode option here and choose linear light. By choosing linear light, we blend both the textures and the colors back. To see if you have done this step correctly, let's compare. So let's enable the healing layer and let's just toggle here for a while. You can see that nothing actually changes from there, which means the whole process was successful. So the main reason we do frequency separation is so that we can even out the textures and the colors, okay? So let's expand this group. Then this time let's select the color layer and let's hide the texture layer for a while. Even though we blurred the colors here with Gaussian blur, you can see that the colors are still uneven. So now we need to mix them to actually make sure that the colors blend nicely. To do that, select the mixer brush tool from here and you have several settings on the options bar to adjust. First, make sure this button here is not turned on. If it is turned on, it will automatically sample the foreground color, which is currently black here. Turn that off. Then leave this other button turned on. It's very useful. Set the weight of the brush to 8% or 10% if you want. Then respect these other settings here. Now we are going to paint to even out the colors even further. So I'll zoom in and then I'll gradually start painting here to mix those colors better. While mixing the colors, always make sure that you mix lighter colors together and darker colors together. What you don't want to do is to drag lighter colors and just smush them with darker colors. We want the transition to be so smooth. So I'm going to start somewhere around here and just paint here to even out these colors better, like so. And this is also one of the processes that is time consuming, so I'm going to fast forward the video and hopefully I'll see you when the whole process is over. Now I'm done with the painting, so let's come to the layers panel and enable this layer. Then let's collapse the group and compare it. So here's the before and here's the after. You can see how even those skin tones look right now. Let's zoom out by pressing Ctrl+0. And the next thing I need to do now, and I always recommend everybody should do this, is color grading, because without color grading the image will still look flat, but it is through color grading that you can actually add depth, add meaning, add dimension to the whole image and make it actually pop. That is where you decide the look of the image. If I want it to be a cool image, I can decide it now. If I want it to be a warm image, I can decide it now through color grading. So let's start. Now I'll start by brightening the whole image up, and to do that I'll just select this group and then I'll click on the new adjustment layer icon and choose levels. You can also do this with curves, but the reason I choose levels is because levels is kind of a global adjustment, which means if you adjust the highlights or the brightest portions, or the highlights in the image become brighter if you take them up, and if you affect the shadows, or the shadows become darker. So it is kind of global, not like the curves where you can target the shadows and increase or reduce them and so on. We also have a representation of it on this bar here. We are only interested with this value here for the highlight, so I'm going to drag it to the left. You can see that as I do, the image becomes brighter, okay? But this is definitely too much. You don't want that. Let's just take that to a nice value, 233. Let's see. We don't want to be so dramatic here, just very little changes to actually make the image what it is. Then let's also boost the reds a little bit. So I will click here again, then I'll choose hue saturation. Then I'll just click on the word master and choose reds. Now the reds are targeted here. We can just drag here to change the reds to any color that we want. You can see it from here. To reset this value, just double click on the word here. Now it is gone. Since the reds are targeted, I'll just increase the saturation of the reds. Let's leave it here and let's see the before and after. Very small changes, but they make a lot of difference, as you can see. Now let's also make sure these adjustments only affect what is within the frequency separation group. To do that, select the first adjustment layer here and then hold the Alt key. That will be the Option key on the Mac. Click in between here to clip it. Let's do the same thing here. Then let us selectively adjust the reds, but this time we are not going to use the hue slider again. Let's click here and then let's choose selective color way at the bottom here. Then let's clip it by clicking here. By default, the color red is chosen, which is actually what I want. Now I'm going to drag the slider towards cyan, just like so. As you can see, take it this way, you reduce the reds, you take it this way, you increase the reds. -72 is okay. Let's also target the yellows. Let's click here and choose yellow. Red and yellows are the two colors that you always adjust most of the time. Let's reduce the cyan as well. I'll take it to -69, and that's basically it. Let's minimize the panel. Let's compare it. Here it is. You see the difference it makes. Just with the hue saturation layer, this is the result that we get, but with selective color, we boost those colors even further. Now, we are going to selectively paint the highlight. The highlights, I mean these portions on the lips. You can see that by default, they are glossy in nature, so we are going to brighten those portions up. To do that, let's add one more levels adjustment. Click here and choose levels, and let's clip it. Then I'll just drag the highlight slider to the left, like so, up to 175. I think 175 is good. And I know you might be wondering right now what I'm doing, because it is too bright. That's not what we want. But let's minimize the panel and make sure the max is selected. Then let's invert the max. Press Ctrl+I, that's Command I on the Mac. Now that sends the image back the way it was from the beginning or after these adjustments. Since the max is black, let's make sure the foreground is white. Then this time click here and choose the normal brush tool. Select a soft round brush from here. Let's reduce the flow of the brush. 11% is good. By reducing the flow, you can be able to paint several times before you actually see the results. Let's now zoom in to those portions and paint on them with white as foreground to reveal the details that are there. This one right here has a lot of glossiness to it, so I'll just paint to reveal more of that. Okay, I'll come towards the nostrils here, and I'll also add some glow here selectively, like so. Very tiny details, but they're very important. See, like here, the light bounces towards these portions. Let's try to replicate that as well. Okay, here as well. These portions need to be brightened, which is why I'm painting there very subtle, like so. And because we are working on a max, if you feel like the effect is too much, you can always press the X key. That will swap the foreground and background color. You can paint back to hide those details. Okay, very simple like that. All right, let's add some glossiness to our forehead. That's too much. Okay, go just gradually. There is a lot we can do here. That's why photo retouching is actually time consuming. But once you put in the work, I think you'll be very satisfied with the results that you get in the end. Because this is a tutorial video, I might actually rush certain portions just so I can show you, because I'm just giving you the foundations or the basics of what you need to know so that you can always apply this to any photo that you might be retouching. These portions right here need to be brightened up just a little, so I'll just throw some slight stroke there, like so. Okay, let's actually zoom out to compare what we have done right now. So here's the before without the highlights, and here's the after with the highlight. You can see so much difference. Okay, I think you get the idea right now. So once you are done with the color grading, adding highlights is very necessary, as it is going to just brighten those portions which you think are very necessary, like the lips here. If we allow this to be so flat, the colors here will not actually pop. but since this is a very delicate portion, we need to actually make that area what it is right now. Should we add this portion here? I think, let's see. Can adjust the flow further. Okay, those are just some of my little touches to the whole image. Now let's put all these adjustments into one group. I'll just group everything together with the frequency separation. And let's rename it to Retouch. Now at this stage you can allow everything the way it is, but I think if you want to take things even a little bit further, then you can start dodging the teeth, the eyes, and so on to make the eyes brighter, to make the teeth brighter. Okay, now because everything here is enclosed within this group, we cannot actually do this because most of these effects will require a selection. So let's add a stamp on top here of everything we have done so far. So to add a stamp, you have to press key combination Ctrl Alt Shift and E. That's Command Option Shift E on the Mac. Let's rename this layer to maybe teeth, because that's what we want to fix, the teeth and the eyes. Now that it's stamped, I can select the lasso tool, set the feather option to 0 for now, zoom in, and then you see that the teeth here are okay. These portions are actually okay, but these ones do not look great. So we can just create a selection around there, like so. I'm very careful not to select the gums. Now with this active selection, we need to feather it. Okay, to feather your selection, press Shift plus F6 on the keyboard. That will bring up this option. Then I'll just input a radius of 3, or let's go with 2.5. Yeah, just to add some radius inside the selection and outside the selection. Now with this active selection, let's come here and then let's add hue saturation. And because that selection was active, it automatically came in here as a max. If I hold the Alt key and click, you can see those portions represented here. Let's Alt click here again to get back out. Now that those portions have been targeted, we can now decide what to do with those particular portions. So for instance, I can click here and play along with the color, okay, to find a nice color such as this one. But then you can also play with the highlight or the brightness of the teeth. You take it this way, it becomes dark. Take it this way, it becomes too bright and artificial. So let's reset everything. Now I'll drag the hue slider here, then just increase the saturation just a little bit, and also the brightness or the lightness slider a little bit as well. You can see so many ways to do one and the same thing inside of Photoshop. Now let's just see whether that made a difference. Let's clip it. You can see a whole lot of difference there. Now I think to dodge the eyes, we are going to select the normal layer, and this is actually going to be destructive because I don't intend to come back and do some modifications to the image. But if you really want to be detailed, you can also work non-destructively. I'll select the layer from here, then I'll select the dodge and burn tool from here. This time I need but the dodge tool. Midtones are chosen here. I'll zoom to the eyes. Then with the raw layer selected, I will just paint on the eyes to brighten them just ever so slightly, like so. Not too much. I don't want to paint on any portion twice. Okay. If you want the opposite, you can use the burn tool. The burn tool will simply make darker shades darker, and the dodge tool will make lighter shades lighter. And processes like this are always good at the end, because at this stage, if something ever goes wrong, you can always come back here and add another stamped layer and continue from there. You will not have to go back to square zero and start all over again. Alright, let's compare those final touches. You can see the teeth and the eyes. Everything looking great, like that. Okay, now that we are done, let's put this inside one group, and this group will be our final retouching. And let's reverse engineer the process and see how we started all over. So we started by duplicating the background to healing, because at this step we actually wanted to use the healing tools inside Photoshop to kind of remove the blemishes, the little bumps here and there. It took us so long. And after that, we separated the image using frequency separation, since it's an 8-bit image. And after that, we also evened out the colors. Then we added these adjustment layers for our color grading. All those steps combined produce this effect here. Then after that, we brightened the teeth and the eyes and so on to produce this effect here. And that's basically it, guys. This is what I consider my introduction or foundation to photo retouching inside of Photoshop. I believe that if you follow these steps from step 1 to where we are right now on any photograph, you must always have a good result. And if at all your image is really complex, then feel free to check our other videos on frequency separation and complex retouching and so on. I think you will always find something very useful. As always, thank you for watching the video to the end. Thank you for giving us a like. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for your encouragement. In the upcoming days, we will be experimenting with a lot of content, so we urge you to be kind and always give us feedback, because we are here because of you. Thank you, and I'm going to see you in the next one tomorrow. Bye bye.